unhinged candidates, and there are a lot of them. Nikki Haley is the number one most unhinged candidate. And of course,
you also have to remember who Nikki Haley is too, right? Like, keep in mind, she's a Brahmin Indian. And I'm sorry, but like the Brahmins are on a real one. You have to understand that so I said to you before that that Islam does not have any kind of religious warfare. I mean, really against anybody, but not against Jews, not against Christians. However, Brahmin Hindus have an actual like religious sectarian beef with Muslims. And I mean, I won't get into that entire backstory, but Nikki Haley, she's a Brahmin Hindi woman. Like, and she does have, the reason she's talking like this is because she hates Muslim people.
Yeah, it won't surprise me. And of course, she's the one that, like, Morning Joe and liberals, they view her as the most respectable. Like she would be a great replacement to Trump. And I have no high opinion of Trump, but Nikki Haley has no moral high ground over Donald Trump. No. She's an unhinged psychopath, and CJ, I don't know if you're still there, but we can
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. My daughter's around, so I turn the camera off. But let's get started. Yeah, let's play the video. In this part, maybe I'll have to do this after you take off, Nick. But this is part of a segment I'm going to title "Unhinged Women" because I also have some stuff to say about Hillary after we talk about Nikki. I don't know how long that's gonna go, so it might be later on.
You got a typo in Unhinged there. Just want to give you a quick heads up. There's a typo in Unhinged.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, I just noticed. Oh shit.
Yeah, I just noticed it.
God damn it.
All right, so let me play the video and I'll get that fixed. Yeah, here we go.
But let's step back because I want the American people to kind of take this in for a second. Just imagine that here the Israelis woke up and communities were bombarded. Families were murdered. Women and children were taken hostage, dragged through the streets. The elderly were taken. All of this has happened in front of everyone, on top of thousands of rockets that hit Israel. This should be personal for every woman and man in America. Why? Because when they did this surprise attack, when they took these hostages, when they murdered these families, they were celebrating. And what were they celebrating? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. Iran's behind it. Finish them.
Yeah,
they
see
should
what I'm
have
saying?
hell to pay for what they just done.
So let me ask this question to Fiorella. Let's start here with Fiorella though, because I'm curious to know, because when we're talking about from a black perspective, we always say this. Coons, they want to go out and be the boldest. I'm going to defend the slave masters the most. So I'm curious, Fiorella, from a female point of view, is Nikki Haley sort of that version of like, because I'm a woman, I want to go even further. Like, I want to be even more unhinged. Is there a little bit of that involved with people like Nikki Haley and Hillary Clinton when it comes to like their more warmongering? What's your take on that?
Yeah. It seems like she's trying to prove herself, right? It seems like she's trying to prove herself as the most neocon of them all. But the reality is, what I want to point out with what she said, I mean, she said it right there. She says, just like we have to support Ukraine. And then she involved Iran in this whole thing. Iran is automatically, part of this. Russia's automatically part of this. And so what we're seeing here is Nikki is really not that much different than RFK Jr., who let out his little piece on Twitter, then Joe Biden, then Trump. I mean, all of these people pretty much are saying the same thing now. She's a lot more radical with her finish them all. But it's just a little more dramatic. But they're all in line. There's not a single politician in the United States that is calling for peace, really, that is saying the Palestinian people have a right to exist. What is being done with them is is absolutely a violation
Well,
of international law.
was Rashida. There's Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush, but they're like the only two.
What did she say?
Rashida Tlaib goes back and forth every day as to what she said. Okay. She went on to talk. She also speaks against Hamas every other day too. I mean, I don't know. I don't really, you know. And you said Cori Bush. I haven't heard. Bush, I haven't seen. What
I haven't seen her yet. I haven't.
She put out a statement yesterday.
But the vast majority of them, if that is true, the vast majority of them haven't. But in the rest of the world, you saw how the politicians are like, okay, we need to find a peaceful solution. We need to stop. We need to do this. The United States is so far gone. It is full of neocons, and they all want to literally carpet bomb Palestinians, and they want to normalize. They weren't just fine with normalizing Nazism. Now they want to normalize hating Palestinians. That's the new thing you want to hate, right? It was Russians, now it's Palestinians, and you're supposed to love now Israelis. Yesterday it was Ukrainians, and this is how they mold and manipulate people's emotions. So that they use these sort of stories, right, about the girls at the rave, these stories that they know they can get these people that were maybe like, okay, Palestine, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, but these barbaric men are raping these women. They know exactly how to weaponize people's emotions. Low information people who do not know the history, who are not educated, weaponize their emotions to turn them around, and weaponize them, of course, to manufacture consent for violations of human violations and crimes, and get you to cheer on the side of Israel, even though Israel has been committing the war crimes, to the silence of everybody else. Nobody cared about the people in Donbass that were being butchered by these Nazis. Nobody cared about the Palestinians that were being butchered by Israel until their TV told them to care about the Israelis.
No, with regards to Nikki Haley, like, I didn't really see this going any other way. I just find it wild that I'll put it this way: there's this idea that brown people, like there's some sort of unity among brown people that does not exist, right? Like as a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys heard, like a couple of weeks ago, the Indian government, or at least there was an allegation made by the Canadian Security and Intelligence Service, and echoed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that India had these Khalistani activists murdered, assassinated on Canadian soil. And the Khalistani activists are people who are generally like from the Punjab area in India that want to separate into an ethno state. Now, that's not something I necessarily agree with, but the Indian government is a far right, ultra nationalist, religious and ethnic based government. And they don't have any tolerance for Sikh people. They don't have tolerance for Muslim people. They essentially want a government where Hindus are considered a first class group, and everybody else is second, possibly even third class. Like they are definitely in favor of the caste system, and they're in favor of religious sectarianism. So Nikki Haley, regardless of what her pedigree is in the United States, that's the culture, and that's the political understanding that she comes from, is this far right ultra nationalist ideal. So people think that, well, because she's a brown woman, she should actually moderate her language, and maybe she's just playing it up a little bit more because she wants to be considered the most fierce Republican, the most the most neocon of them all. And it's like that's entirely possible that she is playing it up, but it's not as if this isn't stuff that I hear out of the mouths of Hindu nationalists anyway.
That's a great point to make. But go ahead, Nick, if you wanted to get started.
Yeah, my last stuff on this and now.
Super chat. That's one point, but the point that you made, Q, about I didn't know that about Nikki Haley. You said you call her a Brahmin.
She's a Brahmin. She's Brahmin. Yeah, she's Hindi. Like she's her religion is Hinduism.
Remember, we called her out for bleaching her skin. I don't know if you know that she bleached her skin so she looked more white for her audience.
Yeah, that's also common.
Pay attention to every interview. Every interview, she has a different skin color
right there.
And I remember I saw a picture of Nikki Haley without makeups, without lights and all that stuff, and I was shocked. Like, she's not like super brown, but she definitely has like a tan to her that I literally did not know. For the longest time, I thought Nikki Haley was the average South Carolina white girl. Like, I did not know.
Oh no. Hindi women like skin lightening cream. Like it had, it's got a stranglehold on Jamaica and certain areas of like Central and East Africa. But one of the largest markets for skin lightening cream is in India. Why? Because a lot of these upper caste Hindus, they deliberately lighten their skin not only to differentiate themselves from the lower castes, but because they actually they have this idea about white being more beautiful. I would say, like, outside of the African continent and the African diaspora, like, the other, the second largest, well, I shouldn't even say second largest group. I think Black people are kind of like the dialogue exists in America because you hear Black people talking about it. It's just the closest to home. But if you want to talk about like the largest market, I mean, with the amount of people that live in India and with the amount that these skin lightening creams sell, like, yeah, colorism is a huge problem in India as well.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say regarding the last segment is you see that she's essentially calling for the final solution. That's what she's calling for. And that's standard talking points in the United States.
People regularly say these things. I've had people send me comments about Gaza being reduced to rubble and glass parking lot and that kind of shit. And I'm just like, and you call them barbarians. Like, you're essentially calling for all of their deaths. And what did they do? Well, they after being humiliated, after having their teeth kicked in, after being sexually assaulted, after being violated, after being herded into a concentration camp, what did they do? They fought back. So we should be mad at that. Like, fuck off. Honestly, and this is like, I've been on this since like way before my conversion to Islam. I've been on this tip since the Second Intifada, and I was living in the United States at the time when that happened. I don't know, like, I'm not sure how old you are, Nick, and if you would have remembered that. But I was in my late teens when the Second Intifada happened, and the one thing that I couldn't get out of my head was the father and his son that were taking cover behind a pillar. And the father's like, he's like crouching and trying to defend his son because he was caught in crossfire, and the Palestinian side was trying to allow him out, and the IDF soldiers would simply not let up on their fire, and they end up killing the guy, right? And I was like, what did this guy and his son do to anybody? Like, why would they do that?
This is a callous disrespect for life. Just a callous.
Yeah, and I didn't really know much about the conflict at the time, but then I end up going to university and I do my own studies and so forth, and I find out, oh my God, everyone's been telling me my entire life up until now, for almost 20 years, that this is a religious warfare, that this is a war of Islam against Judaism, but it's actually not. It's not that whatsoever. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just you have a grievance against Europe for what they did to you, and you take it out on Palestinian people. That is fucked up.
Yeah.